Welcome back to Revise and Resubmit, the podcast that takes, those really dense academic papers and makes them surprisingly interesting. I'm Pavlov.
And I'm Nikita.
We've noticed a lot of you are tuning in, which is amazing, but I haven't quite hit that subscribe button yet.
Yeah, and that little button, honestly, it's so small, but it makes such a huge difference in helping us reach more people with these important discussions.
Right. Today, we're digging into the Revise and Resubmit the R&R. It's something anyone aiming for those top academic journals will likely face. We're pulling insights from a really practical editorial in the Journal of the Association for Information Systems, JAIS, looking at how to actually get through this, sometimes daunting process.
Absolutely. And getting that R&R, especially from a tough journal like JAIS, where, let's be honest, most papers get rejected up front.
Right.
That's actually really good news.
Right. It means your work has potential.
Definitely. But as the editorial points out, it also signals the start of often quite a bit of work. It can be an onerous task ahead.
Yeah, exactly. You're past the first gate, but now the real challenge begins, doesn't it? Trying to make sense of all the feedback.
Which can be a lot.
Often critical, sometimes feels contradictory.
Yeah.
And then figuring out a plan, doing the revisions, writing that response document. It's complex.
It really is. So that's our mission for this deep dive. To pull out the practical tips, the actionable advice from this JAI editorial to give you a kind of roadmap for navigating that R&R journey.
Excellent. Like a concentrated shot of wisdom for this specific publishing stage.
You could say that, yeah.
Okay, so let's unpack it. The editorial really stresses that first crucial step. Understanding the feedback. Sounds obvious, maybe?
Well, yes and no. Anyone who's gotten that thick review package knows it can be a lot to take in.
Right.
And the key thing they highlight is reading the whole thing, the letter, all the reviews before you even think about responding to specific points.
Which is hard because the feedback can be so detailed, sometimes quite blunt.
And it can definitely trigger, an emotional reaction, feeling defensive, maybe overwhelmed, even a bit distressed. That emotional piece is real, and it affects how you process everything.
So what's their first practical tips then? How do you manage that initial wave?
Okay, step one, according to them, read the whole package once, then put it away.
Put it away. Like for how long?
For a few days, maybe even a week or so. Just let it sit.
That feels counterintuitive when you just want to fix it, right?
It does.
Yeah.
But the idea is you need some distance. You need to process the constructive stuff, the critiques, the challenges to your assumptions, but with a clearer head, less of that initial emotional heat.
Okay, detachment.
Exactly. They even suggest maybe working on a different project for a bit.
To avoid getting lost in the weeds immediately. Seeing the forest, not just the individual trees.
Precisely. That helps you maintain perspective before diving into the nitty-gritty.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So after you've had that cooling off period, what's next? Step two.
Step two is about really digesting the reviews, rereading them, but now with that calmer, more objective mindset.
Trying to find the value in the feedback.
Yes, exactly. And crucially, understanding the overall message. What's the big picture the reviewers are trying to convey? Not getting bogged down in every single minor suggestion right away.
So focusing on the major themes first.
Right. And they also suggest, at this point, rereading your original paper.
To see the comments in their original context.
Precisely. Remind yourself what you originally argued, how you framed things. Then you can start asking, okay, how does this feedback hit my theory, my method, my data? What about the overall contribution, or even just my writing style?
Breaking it down. And they mentioned sorting things into major versus minor issues.
Major issues are usually the big ones, things touching on your core contribution, theoretical grounding, maybe the fundamental analysis.
And how do you spot those major issues reliably?
Consistency is key. If you see reviewer 1, reviewer 2, maybe even the editor, all pointing towards a similar area of concern, well, that's a pretty strong signal.
Okay, multiple voices saying the same thing, pay attention.
Definitely. That's likely where the most significant work needs to happen.
Got it. So read, pause, reread, identify themes. Now, step 3 sounds a bit more confronting. Identify major problems in the paper.
Yeah, this is where some serious self-reflection comes in. If reviewers didn't quite get your key ideas, the editorial really pushes you to ask, why not? Was our explanation maybe not as clear as we thought?
Woof. That requires some humility.
It does. They list potential reasons.
Yeah.
Maybe the motivation wasn't strong enough, or the introduction didn't quite hook them. Maybe you tried to cram too much in.
Ah, the minimum publishable unit idea, trying to do too much at once.
Exactly. Or maybe the core message got lost somewhere. Or there's a disconnect between the discussion section and what you set out to do initially.
Or maybe the theoretical puzzle wasn't compelling enough.
That too, all fundamental things. And the core advice here is assume it's us, not them.
Right. Focus on how we crafted the argument, not just blaming the reviewers.
It's about taking ownership of how the work was presented, or maybe the work itself.
A tough but necessary mindset shift. Okay, so once you face those major issues, step 4 is devising a revision strategy. This is the action plan, right?
Exactly. This is your roadmap.
Yeah.
The editorial suggests summarizing maybe the top 3 to 5 major changes you plan to make, directly linked to those big issues and the consistent feedback.
Keeping it focused, they mention color coding too.
Yeah, like a practical technique. Green for easy fixes, yellow for things that take effort but are straightforward, blue for major overhauls, and red for the really tough, maybe conceptual challenges.
That visual approach could be really helpful for managing the work.
It could. And they also suggest categorizing comments by theme, like motivation or method, and by who said it. Editor, R1, R2.
So you see the patterns clearly.
Right. And a good strategy forces you to think. What needs more thought? What can we actually do? What do we want to do? And importantly, what are we willing to do? Like, are we prepared to shift the theory or collect more data if that's what it takes?
Big decisions. And they stress responding to all comments.
Attempt to address everything, even if your response is explaining why you can't make a specific change. And crucially, your strategy needs to show you're addressing at least one key point from everyone on the review team. The editor, each reviewer.
Shows you're taking everyone's input seriously. They mentioned some examples from published papers.
Yeah, they point to a couple of examples showing the kinds of major shifts that sometimes happen, like refining the whole theoretical motivation, changing the unit of analysis, bringing in a new identification strategy, digging into mechanisms, adding new analyses, even getting more data.
Wow, so revisions can be really substantial.
They absolutely can be. So the goals of this strategy are really to sort major from minor, figure out what's feasible, make sure you're covering the big concerns, create a clear to-do list, and get the whole author team on the same page.
That last point seems important, avoiding that fragmented divide and conquer approach.
Yes, they specifically warn against that. If everyone just tackles their little piece without a shared vision, the revised paper can feel disjointed and might not actually satisfy the core concerns.
Right, coherence is key. Okay, strategy in hand, what's step 5? Communicating with the senior editor. Is this common?
The editorial suggests it's almost a must-do if the editor invites you to share your plan.
If they offer, you take them up on it.
Pretty much. But even if they don't explicitly ask, sending a concise summary of your strategy can be really beneficial.
Why is that? What's the upside?
Several things. One, the editor might give feedback on your plan, maybe even endorse it, which is great. Two, it's a chance to ask for clarification if reviewers gave conflicting advice. The editor sees the whole picture.
They can help navigate those contradictions.
Exactly. And three, if you're planning a major pivot, changing the core story or structure significantly, it's vital to check in.
Like that anecdote they shared about checking before making a drastic change.
Precisely. Outlining options, getting input before investing huge effort. It syncs expectations, avoids misunderstandings later. Just keep it brief, maybe a page and a half.
Good advice. Okay, step 6. Consult with colleagues or present the paper. Getting outside eyes.
Yeah, this is for when you feel, maybe a bit stuck or too close to the material.
Happens easily.
It does. So, asking trusted colleagues or co-authors to look things over, maybe focusing on specific tricky points. A theoretical knot or a method question can be invaluable. But be specific in what you ask for.
Don't just dump the whole thing on them.
Right. And presenting at a workshop is another great suggestion. It forces you to synthesize your revised story and your responses. Plus, you get live feedback. The IS community, they note, is generally very helpful.
Good to hear. That feedback loop sounds really useful. Okay, so that covers making sense of it all. Now, onto the actual revision work, revising a manuscript.
Yeah, this is what they call the hard part. Taking that strategy and actually implementing the changes in the text.
It's different from writing the first draft, isn't it?
Totally. You're not just pursuing your own ideas, you're trying to satisfy the reviewer's concerns while hopefully staying true to your original goals. It requires a more clinical approach, as they put it.
Clinical
Meaning you sometimes have to make tough calls, maybe cutting a section you love or adding analyses you hadn't planned on. Being objective about what strengthens the paper based on the feedback.
Got it. They break down the kinds of comments that require major effort into 5 types. First up, contributions. The so what question.
Always a big one. Reviewers want to see the clear value for theory, for practice. Why should we care about this study?
And the advice is to really connect the dots.
Explicitly link the problem you started with to your findings and contributions in the discussion. They even suggest maybe using a table or figure to map it out clearly.
Make it undeniable. Okay, secondary. Theory. Dealing with comments about novelty.
Yeah, the classic, isn't this already known, or how does this really push theory forward type of feedback can be tough.
So how do you tackle that?
They suggest a few angles.
Yep.
1, show how your study explores nuances or specific conditions where existing theory might not fully apply boundary conditions. 2, explain precisely how your analysis extends understanding, maybe uncovering moderators or mediators.
Digging deeper into the how and when.
Exactly. And 3, argue that the phenomenon itself is unique or complex enough that existing theories fall short, creating an opportunity for real theoretical development. Context matters here too.
Right. Third area, method. It seems increasingly important.
Definitely. Rigor expectations are high. Reviewers want to see robust methods and credible results.
So for empirical work,
Demonstrate robustness. Follow the established procedures for data collection and analysis in your field. Provide all the analyses they ask for, even if some go into supplementary files. Use clear tables and figures. And if a request truly isn't feasible, explain why clearly and respectfully.
and for non-empirical work like design science or qualitative.
It's about showing clear logic, mapping your process transparently, maybe using appendices for detailed evidence, providing artifacts if possible. The goal is always transparency and enough detail for assessment.
Makes sense. Fourth area, literature. Too long, too short, not current enough.
Common critiques. The key is to revisit how the literature review serves your paper's story. Does it effectively set up the gap and motivate your study?
So it's not just about length, but function.
Exactly. And getting this right is apparently super critical for the second round. By then, reviewers expect you've really nailed the relevant lit.
What are the tips here?
Updated include classics and recent relevant work, but be selective. Show you understand related fields if necessary. And importantly, if reviewers suggest specific papers, either cite them or explain clearly why you didn't think they fit.
Address their suggestions directly. Okay, the fifth and final area sounds tricky. Educating the reviewers when their expertise might not perfectly match.
Yeah, a delicate situation. First step, genuinely try to understand their comment. Is there a valid point from a different perspective?
Check yourself first.
Always. Then, weigh whether fighting the point is worthwhile. Sometimes it's easier to just run an extra analysis if requested. If it's a literature misunderstanding, you can politely clarify the current understanding, maybe frame it as scholarly understanding has evolved.
Gentle correction.
Very gentle. Never be combative. And if a comment seems truly off base or unreasonable, that might be a time to discreetly consult the editor.
Okay, lots to juggle in the revision itself, but you're not done yet. Crafting responses to reviewers. This response document sounds almost as important as the paper.
It really is. It's your chance to explain your revisions and persuade the review team. The editorial suggests this can be just as hard as writing the paper.
So what's the key advice for writing it well?
First big tip. Start by summarizing your major revisions right at the beginning. Use that revision strategy. Dedicate the first page or two to showing the big changes you made in response to the core feedback.
Set the stage immediately, show you listened.
Exactly. It signals that you took the feedback seriously and tackled the main concerns from each reviewer.
Okay, then.
Then, take every comment seriously and respond to each one, even the small ones, or the ones that seem confusing.
Even if you think it's irrelevant.
Explain why it might be out of scope, perhaps suggest it for future work. If it was confusing, apologize for any lack of clarity in the paper and explain further in the response. If a comment felt hostile, respond calmly, professionally. Maybe flag it for the editor if needed.
And a recurring theme. Do not fight with reviewers?
Absolutely critical. Keep the tone respectful. No defensiveness. But that doesn't mean you can't disagree.
It is okay to disagree respectfully. How do you do that?
Instead of saying you're wrong, explain why your approach is valid. Acknowledge their point, explain what it made you consider, but then justify your decision, perhaps using evidence from prior literature to back up your stance.
Justify, don't just dismiss.
Precisely. And finally, if you genuinely couldn't implement a request, you must explain why.
Can't just ignore it.
No, be honest. Was it lack of data? Outside the scope? Methodologically inappropriate? Did the editor advise against it? Page limits? Provide the reason? Even better, offer an alternative if possible, or frame it as a limitation or future research direction?
Show you engaged with the idea, even if you couldn't act on it.
Exactly. It shows thoroughness and respect for the reviewer's effort.
This is incredibly detailed advice. It really covers the whole life cycle of the R&R.
It does. The editorial concludes with one more interesting point. Be an active reviewer.
How does reviewing help with being revised?
They argue it's part of our scholarly duty, of course, but also that it fundamentally improves your own revision skills.
By seeing the process from the other side.
Exactly. You see how decisions are made, the different ways feedback is given, common pitfalls in papers. It helps you anticipate critiques in your own work and better interpret the feedback you receive.
Seeing review packages as a reviewer, comparing assessments, seeing how authors respond, it builds understanding.
It's a learning loop. It makes you a better author, better equipped to handle the R&R process when it's your turn.
So, wrapping up, the core message seems to be that while the R&R is tough, it's a chance to really improve your work if you engage constructively.
Absolutely. The feedback, even when critical, is usually aimed at making the paper stronger. Viewing reviewers as collaborators, not adversaries, is key.
That shift in perspective sounds crucial.
It is. Developing those communication skills, being open-minded, responding respectfully, it all contributes to a better outcome and, frankly, a more satisfying experience.
Well, for everyone out there currently working on an R&R, hopefully this deep dive provides some useful guidance. We wish you the best with your revisions.
Indeed. And maybe a final thought to leave you with. How might actively jumping into the review process yourself, reviewing others' work, actually change how you approach receiving feedback on your own scholarship and maybe even boost your own research creativity?
And don't forget to subscribe to Revise and Resubmit on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Until next time, keep those minds curious, keep questioning, and keep revising and resubmitting.
রিভাইজ অ্যান্ড রিসাবমিটে স্বাগতম। আমি প্যাভলভ।
আর আমি নিকিতা।
আজকে আমরা একটা বেশ ইন্টারেস্টিং গবেষণাপত্র নিয়ে কথা বলবো। একাডেমিক জার্নালে একটা লেখা জমা দেওয়ার পর ওই যে সম্পাদকের চিঠি আসে, আর তাতে যদি থাকে রিভাইজ অ্যান্ড রিসাবমিট মানে R&R, তখন মনে একটা অদ্ভুত অনুভূতি হয়, তাই না?
একদম।
একটা সুযোগ আছে, কিন্তু অন্যদিকে একটা চাপও তৈরি হয়। সামনে অনেকটা কঠিন কাজ। তো আজ আমরা এই R&R পর্বটা কিভাবে ভালোভাবে পার করা যায় সেটা নিয়ে একটু বিস্তারিত আলোচনা করব।
হ্যাঁ, এটা খুবই গুরুত্বপূর্ণ একটা স্টেজ।
আমাদের আলোচনার ফোকাসটা থাকছে জার্নাল অফ দি অ্যাসোসিয়েশন ফর ইনফরমেশন সিস্টেমস মানে JAIS এর একটা সম্পাদকীয় প্রবন্ধের ওপর।
আচ্ছা।
মিন সিওক প্যাং আর জেসন বি থ্যাচার এই দুজন লেখক তাদের নিজেদের অভিজ্ঞতা থেকে কিছু দারুণ প্র্যাকটিক্যাল পরামর্শ দিয়েছেন। আমরা চেষ্টা করব সেগুলোর নির্যাসটুকু ধরতে, মানে যা সব গবেষকেরই কাজে লাগতে পারে।
ঠিক, কারণ R&R পাওয়া মানে তো লেখাটার মধ্যে সম্ভাবনা দেখা গেছে। সম্পাদক, রিভিউয়াররা মনে করেছেন এটাকে আরও ভালো করা সম্ভব। কিন্তু এটাও ঠিক, রিভিউয়ারদের কমেন্টগুলো যখন আসে, ওরে বাবা, অনেক লম্বা, বেশ ক্রিটিক্যাল, কখনো আবার মনে হয় একজন এক কথা বলছেন আরেকজন ঠিক উল্টোটা।
হ্যাঁ, কন্ট্রাডিক্টরি মনে হয়।
তখন একটু দিশেহারা লাগাটা স্বাভাবিক। এই সম্পাদকীয়টা এখানেই সাহায্য করে, মানে এই চ্যালেঞ্জগুলো কিভাবে সামলানো যায়।
একদম। আর লেখকদের প্রথম টিপসটাই আমার দারুণ লেগেছে। বলছেন সম্পাদকের চিঠি আর কমেন্টগুলো পাওয়ার পর সবটা একবার দেখুন, তারপর ফাইল বন্ধ করে দিন, কয়েকদিন বিশ্রাম নিন।
হ্যাঁ, শুনতে অদ্ভুত লাগলেও এটা খুবই জরুরি।
কেন? এর কারণটা কি?
কারণটা হলো মানে মানসিক স্থিরতা ফিরে পাওয়া। দেখুন, নিজের এত কষ্ট করে লেখা একটা কাজ নিয়ে সমালোচনা শুনলে, যতই সেটা কনস্ট্রাকটিভ হোক, প্রথম একটা ধাক্কা লাগে।
অবশ্যই।
রাগ হতে পারে, খারাপ লাগতে পারে, মনে হতে পারে রিভিউয়াররা বোঝেনি, এগুলো স্বাভাবিক। এই প্রথম আবেগটা একটু থিতিয়ে যাওয়া দরকার।
আচ্ছা।
লেখকরা বলছেন এই সময়টা নিলে একটা মাইন্ডফুল বা মনোযোগী অবস্থায় আসা যায়। তখন ঠান্ডা মাথায় একটু অবজেক্টিভলি কমেন্টগুলো দেখা সম্ভব হয়। তাড়াহুড়ো করে রিয়্যাক্ট করলে মুশকিল।
দারুণ পয়েন্ট। বেশ, তাহলে আবেগটা একটু কমলে, মন শান্ত হলে কমেন্টগুলো অ্যানালাইজ করার অ্যাপ্রোচটা কি হবে? শুধু পড়লেই তো হবে না।
না, শুধু পড়লে হবে না। দ্বিতীয়বার যখন পড়বেন তখন চেষ্টা করতে হবে ডিটেলসে না গিয়ে ওভারঅল মেসেজটা ধরতে, মানে বিগ পিকচারটা কি।
ওকে।
বিভিন্ন রিভিউয়ারের কমেন্টের মধ্যে কমন থিম বা মিলগুলো কি কি সেগুলো খুঁজে বের করা দরকার। আর নিজের জমা দেওয়া আসল পেপারটাও একবার পড়া উচিত।
ও আচ্ছা, সেটাও জরুরি।
হ্যাঁ, কারণ রিভিউ প্রসেসটা তো লম্বা হয়। এর মধ্যে নিজের লেখার কিছু যুক্তি বা কিভাবে প্রেজেন্ট করেছিলাম তা আমরা ভুলেই যেতে পারি।
ঠিক ঠিক। আচ্ছা, এই থিমগুলো খুঁজে পাওয়ার পর কমেন্টগুলোকে কি প্রায়োরিটি অনুযায়ী সাজাতে হবে? মানে কোনটা বেশি গুরুত্বপূর্ণ?
হ্যাঁ, লেখকরা বলছেন মেজর আর মাইনর এই দুটো ভাগে ভাগ করতে। মেজর মানে যেগুলো একেবারে রিসার্চের কোর বিষয় নিয়ে প্রশ্ন তুলেছে।
যেমন
ধরুন, রিসার্চের আসল কন্ট্রিবিউশনটা কি, যে থিওরি ব্যবহার করা হয়েছে সেটা কি যথেষ্ট, মেথোডোলজিতে কি কোনো সমস্যা আছে, এগুলো হলো মেজর পয়েন্ট। এগুলো চিহ্নিত করার পর সবচেয়ে কঠিন কিন্তু সবচেয়ে জরুরি ধাপটা হলো সেলফ রিফ্লেকশন, মানে নিজেকে প্রশ্ন করা, কেন রিভিউয়াররা আমার যুক্তিটা ধরতে পারলেন না।
এটা কিন্তু খুব কঠিন কাজ।
কঠিন কিন্তু জরুরি। লেখকরা একটা দারুণ অ্যাটিটিউডের কথা বলছেন। ভাবতে হবে সমস্যাটা আমার লেখায়, রিভিউয়ারের বোঝায় নয়। এই অ্যাঙ্গেল থেকে দেখলে নিজের লেখার দুর্বলতাগুলো, যেমন ধরুন মোটিভেশনটা কি দুর্বল, থিওরির ব্যাখ্যা কি ক্লিয়ার নয়, মেথডের সমস্যা, কন্ট্রিবিউশনকে ঠিকমতো হাইলাইট করা হয়নি, এগুলো খুঁজে বের করা সহজ হয়।
এই আত্মসমালোচনা বা সেলফ রিফ্লেকশনটা করতে পারলেই বোধহয় সংশোধনের রাস্তাটা পরিষ্কার হয়।
একদম।
আর এর উপর ভিত্তি করেই তো রিভিশন স্ট্র্যাটেজি বা সংশোধনের কৌশলটা বানাতে হবে। লেখকরা এখানে কালার কোডিংয়ের কথাও হয়তো বলেছেন।
হ্যাঁ, একটা পরিষ্কার রোডম্যাপ দরকার। স্ট্র্যাটেজিতে 3 থেকে 5টা মূল পরিবর্তনের সামারি থাকা উচিত, যেগুলো রিভিউয়ারদের প্রধান কনসার্নগুলো অ্যাড্রেস করবে।
আচ্ছা।
কালার কোডিংটা একটা টুল হতে পারে, যেমন সবুজ সহজে করা যাবে, হলুদ একটু খাটতে হবে, নীল বেশ বড় পরিবর্তন, লাল সবচেয়ে চ্যালেঞ্জিং।
ইন্টারেস্টিং আইডিয়া।
আর স্ট্র্যাটেজিটা এমনভাবে সাজাতে হবে যেন প্রত্যেক রিভিউয়ারের অন্তত একটা মেজর পয়েন্ট অ্যাড্রেস করা হয়। এটা পুরো টিমের মধ্যে কাজ ভাগ করতেও সুবিধা করে।
এই যে স্ট্র্যাটেজিটা তৈরি হলো, এটা নিয়ে কি এডিটরের সাথে কথা বলাটা ভালো, যদি বড় কোনো চেঞ্জের দরকার হয়?
হ্যাঁ, লেখকরা বলছেন সিনিয়র এডিটরের সাথে স্ট্র্যাটেজি নিয়ে কথা বলাটা উপকারী হতে পারে, বিশেষ করে যদি এডিটর নিজে সেই সুযোগ দেন। কি চাইছেন, আমরা কি ভাবছি, বড় কোনো পরিবর্তনের দরকার হলে এডিটরের সম্মতি থাকলে কনফিডেন্স বাড়ে, পরে মিসআন্ডারস্ট্যান্ডিং এড়ানো যায়। তবে আলোচনাটা ব্রিফ হওয়াই ভালো, 1-1.5 পাতার মধ্যে।
কিন্তু রিভিশনের কাজটা তো সবসময় স্মুথলি এগোয় না। লেখকরা আটকে যেতে পারেন, পথ হারাতে পারেন। তখন কি করার পরামর্শ?
দুটো খুব ভালো পথের কথা বলা হয়েছে। 1, কলিগদের সাহায্য নেয়া। অন্য কেউ যার ফ্রেশ পার্সপেক্টিভ আছে, সে হয়তো এমন কিছু ধরিয়ে দিতে পারে যা আমরা দেখিনি।
হ্যাঁ, ফ্রেশ আইজ দরকার হয়।
আর 2, কোনো রিসার্চ ওয়ার্কশপে বা কনফারেন্সে পেপারটা প্রেজেন্ট করা। এতে নিজের ভাবনাগুলো যেমন গুছিয়ে বলা যায়, তেমনি অডিয়েন্সের কাছ থেকে ভালো ফিডব্যাকও পাওয়া যায়।
এটাও ঠিক। আচ্ছা, এবার তাহলে রিভিশনের মূল কাজটায় আসি। কিছু কমন কমেন্ট তো প্রায়ই আসে, যেমন রিসার্চের কন্ট্রিবিউশন বা অবদান নিয়ে প্রশ্ন। এটা কিভাবে ট্যাকেল করতে হবে?
কন্ট্রিবিউশন নিয়ে প্রশ্ন উঠলে দেখাতে হবে আপনার কাজটা থিওরি আর প্র্যাকটিস দুটো ক্ষেত্রেই কেন গুরুত্বপূর্ণ, এর সিগনিফিকেন্সটা কি,
মানে ইমপ্লিকেশনগুলো আর কি।
হ্যাঁ, লেখকদের উচিত রিসার্চের শুরুতে যে মোটিভেশন বা কারণটা দেখিয়েছিলেন তার সাথে ফাইন্ডিংস বা কন্ট্রিবিউশন সেকশনের একটা পরিষ্কার লিঙ্ক তৈরি করা। লেখকরা টেবিল বা ফিগার ব্যবহার করে এই লিঙ্কটা দেখানোর কথা বলছেন।
ও, ভিজুয়ালি দেখানো।
হ্যাঁ, যাতে এক ঝলকেই কানেকশনটা বোঝা যায়। কন্ট্রিবিউশন মানে কিন্তু শুধু নতুন কিছু বের করা নয়, হতে পারে পুরনো থিওরিকে নতুনভাবে দেখা বা দুটো আলাদা আইডিয়াকে মেলানো।
বুঝলাম। আর যদি থিওরি নিয়ে প্রশ্ন ওঠে, যেমন নতুন কি আছে বা এই থিওরিটা এখানে ঠিক লাগছে না, এমন কমেন্ট,
তখন দেখাতে হবে আপনার কাজটা কিভাবে এক্সিস্টিং থিওরির কোনো সূক্ষ্ম দিক, মানে নুয়ান্স বা তার লিমিটেশন মানে বাউন্ডারি কন্ডিশন, কোথায় খাটে না সেটা তুলে ধরছে।
আচ্ছা,
অথবা কিভাবে একটা জানা সম্পর্ককে নতুন কোনো কনটেক্সটে বা পরিস্থিতিতে টেস্ট করা হয়েছে, হয়তো কোনো মডারেটিং ফ্যাক্টর পাওয়া গেছে।
ওকে।
আরেকটা অ্যাপ্রোচ হলো দেখানো যে আমাদের এই কেসটা বা ঘটনাটা চালু থিওরি দিয়ে ঠিকঠাক ব্যাখ্যা করা যাচ্ছে না, তাই নতুন ভাবনার দরকার। এখানে কনটেক্সচুয়ালাইজেশন মানে কোন পরিস্থিতিতে গবেষণাটা হচ্ছে সেটা ক্লিয়ার করা খুব জরুরি।
মেথড আর ডেটা অ্যানালিসিস নিয়েও তো অনেক প্রশ্ন আসে। ফাইন্ডিংস কতটা রোবাস্ট বা নির্ভরযোগ্য, এই প্রশ্নটা প্রায়ই থাকে।
হ্যাঁ, এখানে দেখাতে হবে রেজাল্টগুলো বিশ্বাসযোগ্য, মানে ডেটা কালেকশন আর অ্যানালিসিসে বেস্ট প্র্যাকটিস ফলো করা হয়েছে।
স্বচ্ছতা দরকার।
একদম। রিভিউয়াররা যদি কোনো অ্যাডিশনাল অ্যানালিসিস চান সেটা করে দিতে হবে, প্রয়োজনে অ্যাপেন্ডিক্সে। আর যদি কোনো অ্যানালিসিস করা সম্ভব নাই হয়, ধরুন ডেটা নেই, তাহলে কারণটা খুব বিনয়ের সাথে বলতে হবে। কোয়ান্টিটেটিভ বা কোয়ালিটেটিভ সব ধরনের রিসার্চের রিগার বা কঠোর মান আর স্বচ্ছতা বজায় রাখাটা মাস্ট।
লিটারেচার রিভিউ নিয়েও তো নানা রকম কথা হয়, কখনো বড্ড লম্বা, কখনো খুব ছোট বা আপ টু ডেট নয়।
লিটারেচার রিভিউটাকে দেখতে হবে আর্গুমেন্টের সাপোর্ট হিসাবে, শুধু একটা লিস্ট হিসাবে নয়।
ঠিক।
লম্বা মনে হলে অপ্রাসঙ্গিক জিনিস বাদ দিতে হবে বা অ্যাপেন্ডিক্সে সরাতে হবে। ছোট মনে হলে রিসেন্ট আর রেলেভেন্ট কাজ বা রিভিউয়াররা যা সাজেস্ট করেছেন সেগুলো ঢোকাতে হবে। আসল উদ্দেশ্য হলো দেখানো যে লেখকরা ফিল্ডটা সম্পর্কে জানেন এবং তাদের কাজটা বর্তমান আলোচনার সাথে যুক্ত।
এবার একটু ট্রিকি সিচুয়েশনে আসি। যদি মনে হয় রিভিউয়ার নিজেই হয়তো বিষয়টার গভীরে যাননি বা মেথডটা বোঝেননি, এটা তো খুব সেন্সিটিভ ব্যাপার, তখন কি করা উচিত?
ঠিক বলেছেন, এটা খুবই ডেলিকেট। প্রবন্ধে এটাকে বলা হচ্ছে রিভিউয়ারদের এডুকেট করা, তবে খুব সাবধানে।
কিভাবে?
প্রথমত, আবার ভালো করে কমেন্টটা পড়ুন। সত্যিই কি রিভিউয়ার ভুল বুঝেছেন নাকি আমাদের লেখাতেই অস্পষ্টতা ছিল?
আচ্ছা।
দ্বিতীয়ত, ভাবুন এই পয়েন্টটা নিয়ে তর্ক করাটা কি খুব জরুরি? অনেক সময় ছোট্ট একটা ব্যাখ্যা বা অ্যানালিসিস দিয়েই মিটিয়ে ফেলা যায়। তৃতীয়ত, যদি সত্যি মনে হয় রিভিউয়ারের বোঝায় ভুল আছে, তখন অত্যন্ত বিনয়ের সাথে প্রতিষ্ঠিত লিটারেচারের রেফারেন্স দিয়ে নিজের যুক্তিটা দিন। নিজের কথা না বলে অন্য অথরিটির কথা বললে সেটা বেশি কার্যকর।
মানে সরাসরি কনফ্রন্ট না করা?
একদম না, অ্যাটাকিং হওয়া চলবে না। প্রয়োজনে এডিটরের পরামর্শ নিন। মনে রাখতে হবে রিভিউয়ারের সাথে ফাইট করে জেতা যায় না, পেপারটার ক্ষতি হয়।
বুঝলাম। আচ্ছা, রিভিশনের পর যখন সংশোধিত পেপারটা জমা দেওয়া হচ্ছে, সাথে তো একটা রেসপন্স ডকুমেন্টও দিতে হয়। এটা লেখার কৌশল কি? শুধু পয়েন্ট ধরে ধরে উত্তর দিলেই হবে?
না, তার চেয়ে একটু বেশি করতে হবে। লেখকরা বলছেন রেসপন্স ডকুমেন্টের শুরুতেই একটা সামারি দিন, কি কি মেজর চেঞ্জ করা হয়েছে তার একটা ওভারভিউ।
ওকে, একটা এক্সিকিউটিভ সামারির মতো।
হ্যাঁ, অনেকটা তাই। এটা রিভিউয়ারদের এক নজরে বুঝতে সাহায্য করে যে তাদের মূল কনসার্নগুলো অ্যাড্রেস করা হয়েছে। এরপর প্রত্যেকটা কমেন্টের আলাদা আলাদা উত্তর দিন, যথেষ্ট গুরুত্ব দিয়ে। কোনো কমেন্টকে ছোট ভাববেন না।
কিন্তু সব কমেন্টের সাথে কি একমত হতে হবে? দ্বিমত করা যাবে না?
অবশ্যই দ্বিমত করা যেতে পারে এবং কখনো কখনো সেটা জরুরিও, কিন্তু করতে হবে খুব সম্মানের সাথে।
কিভাবে?
আপনি ভুল এভাবে না বলে বরং আপনি কেন অন্যরকম ভাবছেন তার পক্ষে যুক্তি দিন। প্রতিষ্ঠিত থিওরি, আগের রিসার্চ বা ডেটার সাহায্য নিন। নিজের যুক্তিটাকে বাইরের সাপোর্ট দিয়ে প্রতিষ্ঠা করুন।
আচ্ছা, লজিক দিয়ে বোঝাতে হবে।
একদম।
আর যদি এমন কোনো রিকোয়েস্ট থাকে যা রাখা সম্ভবই না, যেমন আরও ডেটা কালেকশন বা এমন অ্যানালিসিস যা করা যাচ্ছে না,
তখন সৎ থাকতে হবে। কেন পারছেন না তার আসল কারণটা ব্যাখ্যা করুন। সময়ের অভাব, টাকার অভাব, ডেটার লিমিটেশন বা এটা রিসার্চের স্কোপের বাইরে।
শুধু পারিনি বললে হবে না।
না, কেন পারা যায়নি তার একটা বিশ্বাসযোগ্য কারণ দিতে হবে। সম্ভব হলে অল্টারনেটিভ কিছু সাজেস্ট করুন, অথবা বলুন এটাকে লিমিটেশন বা ফিউচার রিসার্চ ডিরেকশন হিসেবে মেনশন করছেন। মূল কথা হলো একটা যুক্তিসঙ্গত ব্যাখ্যা দেওয়া।
প্রবন্ধের শেষে লেখকরা আরেকটা খুব গুরুত্বপূর্ণ কথা বলেছেন যে গবেষকদের নিজেদেরও রিভিউয়ার হওয়া উচিত, মানে অন্যের পেপার রিভিউ করা উচিত। এটা কিভাবে সাহায্য করে?
এটা দারুণ একটা পরামর্শ। এর অনেকগুলো বেনিফিট আছে। প্রথমত, এটা কমিউনিটির প্রতি আমাদের দায়িত্ব।
ঠিক।
দ্বিতীয়ত এবং সবচেয়ে জরুরি, এটা নিজের লেখার মান আর রিভিশন স্কিল বাড়ায়। অন্যের পেপার রিভিউ করতে গিয়ে আমরা শিখি ভালো লেখা কাকে বলে, রিভিউয়াররা কি খোঁজেন, কিভাবে কনস্ট্রাকটিভ ফিডব্যাক দিতে হয়।
হ্যাঁ, অন্যের ভুল বা ভালো দিকগুলো দেখলে নিজের লেখাও তার প্রভাব পড়ে।
ঠিক। আর যখন রিভিউয়ার হিসেবে আমরা অন্যদের রেসপন্স ডকুমেন্ট পড়ি, তখন শিখি কিভাবে রিভিউয়ারদের সাথে এফেক্টিভলি কমিউনিকেট করতে হয়। এই অভিজ্ঞতাটা নিজের পেপার রিভাইজ করার সময় খুব কাজে লাগে। পুরো রিভিউ প্রসেসটা মানে এই গেমটা ভালো করে বোঝা যায়।
সত্যি, আজকের আলোচনা থেকে পুরো রিভিশন প্রসেসটার একটা চমৎকার গাইডলাইন পাওয়া গেল। জেআইএস এর এই সম্পাদকীয়টা আসলেই গবেষকদের জন্য খুব কাজের। মূল মেসেজটা তাহলে এটাই যে রিভিউ প্রসেসটাকে অ্যাডভার্সারিয়াল না ভেবে কোলাবোরেটিভ হিসেবে দেখা।
একদম। আর রিভিউয়ারদের সাথে একটা পজিটিভ রেসপেক্টফুল সম্পর্ক রাখা। পুরো ব্যাপারটা কঠিন, সময় সাপেক্ষ, হতাশাও আসে, কিন্তু শেষ পর্যন্ত এটা পেপারের কোয়ালিটিকে অনেক উন্নত করে। রিভিউয়ারদের শত্রু না ভেবে সহযোগী ভাবলে, তাদের ফিডব্যাক খোলা মনে নিলে সাকসেস পাওয়াটা সহজ হয়। লেখকরা শেষে বলছেন, খোলা মন আর উদারতা এই দুটো জিনিস পুরো জার্নিটাকে আরও ফলপ্রসূ করে।
এই দারুণ আলোচনার শেষে শ্রোতাদের জন্য একটা ছোট্ট প্রশ্ন রেখে যাই। শুধু একাডেমিক লেখালেখি নয়, জীবনের যে কোনো ক্ষেত্রেই যখন আমরা কোনো ফিডব্যাক বা সমালোচনা পাই, তখন স্বাভাবিকভাবেই আমরা একটু ডিফেন্সিভ হয়ে যাই। কিভাবে এই ডিফেন্সিভনেসটা একটু সরিয়ে সমালোচনাকে ব্যক্তিগত আক্রমণ না ভেবে শেখার আর উন্নতি করার একটা সুযোগ হিসেবে দেখার মানসিকতা তৈরি করা যায়, এটা নিয়ে একটু ভাবার অবকাশ রইল।
안녕하세요. 오늘 여러분과 함께 좀 깊이 파헤쳐 볼 주제는요. 바로 학술 논문 게재 과정에서 만나는 큰 관문이죠. 수정 후 재심사, RN안입니다.
네, RNR. 연구자들에겐 정말 익숙한 단어죠.
그렇죠. 특히 최고 수준 저널에서 RNR을 받으면 일단 됐다 싶지만 그 기쁨도 잠시잖아요.
맞아요. 편집자랑 리뷰어들이 보내온 피드백이 막 산더미처럼 쌓여 있죠.
이걸 반영해서 논문을 수정해야 하는 정말 고된 여정이 시작되는 거죠.
네, 험난하지만 또 필수적인 과정이고요.
그래서 오늘은 이 과정을 어떻게 성공적으로 헤쳐나갈 수 있을지 그 실질적인 조언들을 좀 나눠보려고 합니다. 정보시스템협회 저널 JIS에 실린 편집 후기가 있더라고요.
아, 민석판 교수님하고 제이슨 B 태처 교수님이 있으신 글 말씀이시죠?
네, 맞습니다. 그분들의 경험을 바탕으로 한 가이드라인을 따라서 이 중요한 과정을 어떻게 좀 더 효과적으로 관리할 수 있을지 그 로드맵을 한번 그려보겠습니다.
좋습니다. 연구하시는 분들께 정말 실질적인 도움이 될 것 같아요. 지금 RNR 받으신 분들 혹은 앞으로 받게 되실 분들 모두에게요.
자, 그럼 RNR 통보를 받았을 때부터 시작해 볼까요? 일단 안도의 한숨을 내쉬는데 곧바로 그 방대한 리뷰 코멘트 더미와 딱 마주치게 되죠.
네, 눈앞이 캄캄해지는 순간이죠.
그런데 자료에서는 아주 흥미로운 첫 단계를 제안해요. 일단 코멘트를 쭉 읽어는 보되 며칠 동안은 그냥 덮어두라는 거예요.
아, 네, 그거 정말 중요해요.
감정을 좀 가라앉힐 시간을 가지라는 건데 이게 왜 그렇게 중요할까요? 당장 막 고치고 싶고 아니면 막 반박하고 싶고 그럴 텐데
이게 감정적인 반응이 앞서면 객관적인 판단이 흐려지거든요. 저자들이 마음 챙김, 그러니까 마인드풀니스 상태를 언급하는데 이게 중요해요.
마음 챙김이요?
네. 여러 관점에서 좀 열린 마음으로 상황을 바라보는 거죠. 당장 수정에 막 돌입하면 나무 하나하나, 그러니까 개별 코멘트만 보게 돼요.
아, 숲을 못 보고.
그렇죠. 전체적인 메시지, 리뷰팀이 진짜 말하고 싶은 큰 그림을 놓칠 수 있어요. 며칠 거리를 두면 좀 더 차분해지고 객관적으로 피드백의 본질을 파악할 수 있게 됩니다.
일리가 있네요.
이건 사실 거절, 리젝션 통보를 받았을 때도 마찬가지로 중요해요. 다음 저널에 내기 전에 어쨌든 논문을 개선해야 하니까요.
그렇군요. 감정이 좀 가라앉고 객관성을 찾았다면 그 다음 두 번째 단계는 리뷰를 소화, 다이제스트 하는 거라고 하죠.
네, 소화.
단순히 읽는 걸 넘어서 리뷰팀 전체의 분위기나 크는 그림, 메시지를 파악하는 단계인데요. 구체적으로 어떻게 하라고 제안하나요?
여러 번 읽어봐야 합니다. 반복해서 읽으면서 리뷰어들 의견을 종합적으로 이해하는 거죠.
한 사람 의견만 보는 게 아니고요.
네, 특히 여러 리뷰어가 공통적으로 지적하는 부분이 있잖아요. 그게 보통 논문의 핵심적인 개선 방향을 알려주는 중요한 신호일 가능성이 높아요.
아, 여러 명이 공통적으로 지적하는 부분.
그렇죠. 그리고 이때 원고를 다시 한번 읽어보는 게 도움이 돼요. 리뷰어의 관점에서 이 부분이 이렇게 보일 수 있겠구나, 이 부분이 부족했구나 하고 파악하는 거죠.
내 논문을 남의 논문처럼 보는 거네요.
맞습니다. 그리고 스스로 질문을 던져보는 거예요. 이 코멘트가 내 연구의 이론, 방법론, 데이터, 아니면 기여도 주장에 대해서 뭘 말하는 거지? 글쓰기 스타일의 문제인가? 이런 식으로요.
그리고 또 중요하게 구분해야 할 게 있다고요?
네, 주요 이슈랑 부수적인 이슈를 구분하는 게 중요해요. 예를 들어 기여도가 불분명하다, 이론적 기반이 약하다, 분석에 문제가 있다. 이런 건 주요 이슈겠죠.
그렇죠. 반면에 오타 지적이나 표현 수정 같은 건 부수적인 이슈고요.
맞습니다. 그래야 어디에 집중해서 수정할지 감이 잡히니까요.
자, 그럼 세 번째 단계. 이게 어쩌면 제일 힘들 수도 있겠어요. 바로 자기 성찰입니다.
네, 그렇죠.
왜 내 연구의 기여도를 몰라봤을까? 내 이론이나 방법론은 왜 이해를 못하지? 이런 질문을 스스로에게 던지는 건데 저자들은 이때 아주 강력하게 공고하더라고요. 그 사람들 문제가 아니라 우리 문제다 라고 가정하라고요.
네, it's not them, it's us.
와, 이거 정말 쉽지 않을 것 같은데요.
맞아요. 솔직히 좀 고통스럽죠. 하지만 이게 필수적인 과정입니다. 리뷰어들이 이해를 못했다면 내 글쓰기가 명확하지 않았을 가능성이 커요.
설명이 부족했다?
네, 아니면 연구 동기부여가 좀 약했거나 서론에서 확 끌어당기지 못했을 수도 있고요. 그랜트랑 폴록 연구에서도 지적하는 부분이죠.
그렇군요. 또 다른 이유도 있을까요?
방법론 적용 과정이나 결과의 함의 같은 거를 제대로 설명을 못했을 수도 있어요. 혹은 너무 많은 내용을 막 담으려다가 오히려 핵심을 놓쳤을 수도 있고요.
케인 교수가 말한 최소 출판 단위 개념 같은 건가요?
네, 비슷합니다. 또 논의 부분이 연구 동기랑 잘 연결이 안 된다거나 아니면 해결할 만한 흥미로운 이론적 긴장감을 제대로 제시하지 못했을 수도 있고요. 베어드 연구에서도 이런 점을 지적했죠.
결국 내 작업에 대해서 정말 냉정하게 돌아보는 시간이 필요하다는 거네요.
네, 그게 성공적인 수정을 위한 단단한 토대가 됩니다.
좋습니다. 감정을 다스리고 리뷰를 깊이 이해하고 또 스스로를 성찰했다면 이제 네 번째 단계, 구체적인 수정 전략, 리비전 스트래테지를 세워야겠죠.
그렇죠. 이제 작전 계획을 짜야죠.
작전 계획. 네, 여기에는 뭐가 포함되어야 할까요?
여러 리뷰어들이 일관되게 그리고 중요하게 지적한 피드백을 바탕으로 한 3개에서 5개 정도의 주요 수정 사항을 명확하게 요약해야 합니다.
핵심 수정 방향을 정하는 거군요.
네, 이때 색깔 코딩 같은 걸 활용하면 좋다고 해요. 예를 들면 녹색은 쉬운 수정, 노란색은 간단하지만 중요, 파란색은 좀 대대적인 수정, 빨간색은 가장 어렵고 근본적인 문제, 이런 식으로요.
시각적으로 딱 보이게 우선순위를 정하는 거네요.
맞아요. 그래서 뭘 해결해야 하고 뭘 할 수 있고 뭘 하고 싶고 그리고 뭘 기꺼이 할 의향이 있는지, 예를 들어 이론 틀을 바꾼다거나 데이터를 추가로 모은다거나 하는 큰 결정까지도요.
그런 것까지 다 고려해서 전략을 짜야 하는군요.
네, 그리고 아주 중요한 포인트가 하나 있는데요.
네.
리뷰 패널 멤버 중에 누구 한 명이라도 내 의견은 무시됐네? 이렇게 느끼지 않도록 각 멤버가 제기한 주요 우려사항 중 적어도 하나는 이 전략에 반영하는 게 좋다는 겁니다.
모두의 의견을 존중한다는 표시군요.
그렇죠. 자료에 실제 저자들의 수정 전략 예시도 나와 있는데 테이블 1A, 1B 그걸 보면 좀 감을 잡는 데 도움이 될 거예요.
공동 저자들이 있다면 이 전략을 공유하는 것도 중요하겠네요.
당연하죠. 팀 전체의 이해를 맞추고 작업 분담하는데 아주 유용합니다.
5번째 단계가 또 흥미로운데요. 이렇게 세운 수정 전략을 시니어 에디터와 공유하라는 조언이에요. 특히 에디터가 검토 제안을 했다면 반드시 해야 한다고요.
네, 반드시요. 에디터의 제안은 사실상 거의 지시사항이라고 봐야 합니다.
그렇군요.
설령 그런 제안이 없었더라도 전략을 미리 공유하는 게 유리한 점이 많아요. 우선 에디터한테 추가적인 조언이나 지지를 받을 수도 있고요.
네.
또 리뷰어들 의견이 막 서로 충돌할 때가 있잖아요. 그럴 때 에디터에게 방향에 대한 가이드라인을 구할 수도 있습니다.
중재를 요청할 수도 있겠네요.
그렇죠. 그리고 만약에 논문의 구조나 스토리에 아주 큰 변화를 줄 계획이라면 이걸 미리 에디터랑 확인해서 기대치를 조율하는 게 좋아요. 나중에 수정본 냈는데 이건 내가 생각한 거는 다른데?
이런 놀라움을 피할 수 있죠.
미리 소통하는 게 중요하군요.
네, 단 에디터는 엄청 바쁘니까 전략 문서는 한 페이지나 한 페이지 반 정도로 아주 간결하게 핵심만 딱 정리해서 보내는 게 좋습니다.
알겠습니다. 자, 그런데 6번째 단계. 만약 이렇게 전략까지 다 세웠는데도 수정 과정에서 딱 막혔을 때, 벽에 부딪혔을 땐 어떻게 하냐는 거죠?
아, 그럴 때 있죠. 혼자 끙끙 앓지 말고요.
네.
동료에게 조언을 구하거나 아니면 뭐 워크숍 같은 데서 발표하는 게 좋다고 합니다.
다른 사람의 시각을 빌리는 거군요.
맞아요. 제3자의 시각이 막힌 부분을 뻥 뚫어주는 경우가 꽤 많거든요. 특정 이론이나 경험적인 문제에 대해서 잘 아는 동료에게 구체적인 조언을 구할 수도 있고요.
발표는 어떤 도움이 될까요?
발표는 일단 수정 내용을 스스로 한번 정리하는 기회가 되고요. 또 새로운 아이디어를 얻을 수도 있어요. 리뷰어들이 제기했던 어려운 점들을 솔직하게 공유하고 청중들의 집단지성을 활용해서 해결책을 모색해 볼 수 있는 거죠.
혼자 앓는 것보다 훨씬 낫겠네요.
그럼요.
자, 이제 본격적으로 원고 수정 단계로 한번 넘어가 보겠습니다. 자료에서는 특히 5가지 유형의 주요 코멘트에 초점을 맞추고 있는데요. 첫 번째는 기여도에 관한 질문입니다.
네, 그래서 이 연구가 왜 중요한가 이거죠.
그렇죠. 이 근본적인 질문에 답해야 하는 거죠.
연구 주제와 질문의 중요성을 이론적으로든 실용적으로든 아니면 정책적 관점에서든 더 강화해야 합니다.
어떻게 하면 좀 더 효과적으로 보여줄 수 있을까요?
특히 서론에서 제시했던 연구의 동기, 모티베이션하고 논의나 기여도 섹션에서 주장하는 바가 명확하게 연결되도록 하는 게 중요해요. 이게 의외로 잘 안 되는 경우가 많거든요.
아, 동기와 기여도의 연결?
네. 한 가지 팁은 표나 그림 같은 걸 활용하는 거예요. 동기랑 핵심 기여 요소를 시각적으로 딱 연결해서 보여주고 그걸 바탕으로 기여도 문단을 작성하는 전략이 효과적일 수 있습니다.
오, 시각화 전략이군요. 두 번째는 이론에 관한 코멘트입니다. 기존 문헌과 비교해서 새로운 이론적 통찰이 뭐냐? 아니면 좀 더 뼈아프게 이거 이미 아는 내용이다 같은 비판적인 코멘트요.
아, 네. 그런 코멘트를 받으면 좀 그렇죠. 이건 보통 저자가 연구의 참신성이나 아니면 맥락의 중요성을 제대로 설명하지 못했다는 신호일 수 있어요. 홍 교수님 연구나 존스 교수님 연구에서도 지적된 바 있고요.
그럼 어떻게 대응해야 할까요?
3가지 접근법을 제안하는데요. 첫째는 우리 연구가 기존 이론의 어떤 미묘한 차이나 경계 조건, boundary conditions를 탐구하는지를 명확히 밝히는 거예요.
경계 조건이요?
네, 이 이론이 어떤 특정 상황에서는 다르게 작동한다 이런 걸 보여주는 거죠. 둘째는 우리 연구의 분석이 기존 이론적 이해를 어떻게 확장시키는지를 보여주는 겁니다. 예를 들어 뭐 새로운 조절 효과를 발견했다거나 하는 식으로요.
아, 이론을 더 발전시키는 부분을 강조하는 거군요.
그렇죠. 셋째는 아예 이 연구 대상 현상이 기존 이론만으로는 설명이 안 된다. 그래서 새로운 이론적 기여가 필요하다. 이렇게 보여주는 방법도 있습니다.
3가지 접근법 잘 기억해 둬야겠네요. 세 번째는 방법론입니다. 연구의 엄격성, 리거에 대한 기대치가 계속 높아지고 있다고 하는데요.
맞아요. 요즘엔 정말 방법론을 꼼꼼하게 보죠. 핵심 결과의 견고함, 로버스트네스를 입증해야 합니다.
견고함. 그러니까 결과가 얼마나 튼튼한지요.
네. 경험적 연구의 경우에는 관련 방법론 문헌의 지침을 잘 따랐는지, 데이터 수집이나 분석을 제대로 했는지, 그리고 리뷰어가 요청한 추가 분석이 있다면 그걸 다 제공했는지 보여줘야 해요.
추가 분석 요청이 많을 수도 있겠네요.
그렇죠. 때로는 리뷰어의 한 문장짜리 답변을 위해서 정말 많은 노력이 필요할 수도 있어요. 베열드 교수는 이때 표나 그림을 잘 활용하라고 제안하고요.
만약 요청된 분석이 불가능하다면요?
그럴 때는 그 이유를 정중하고 명확하게 설명해야 합니다. 특정 리뷰어를 만족시키지 못하더라도 에디터나 다른 리뷰어는 설득할 수 있어야 하니까요.
다른 형태의 연구는 어떤가요? 디자인 사이언스나 질적 연구 같은 경우요.
마찬가지예요. 연구 수행 논리를 명확히 하고 연구 과정의 각 단계와 추론 과정을 잘 연결해야죠. 부록 등을 통해서 상세 정보를 제공하고 필요하다면 데이터나 결과물을 공유할 수 있어야 하고요. 핵심은 결국 투명성입니다.
투명성. 네. 네 번째는 문헌 연구입니다. 너무 길다, 너무 짧다, 최신 연구 반영 못했다, 이런 지적 정말 흔하잖아요.
네, 문헌 연구는 참 쉽지 않죠. 일단 한 걸음 물러서서 자문해봐야 해요. 이 문헌 연구 파트가 내 논문의 전체 스토리에 기여하고 있나? 아니면 오히려 방해가 되나?
너무 길면 어떻게 하죠?
일부를 부록으로 빼거나 아예 별도의 리뷰 논문으로 분리하는 걸 고려해 볼 수 있어요.
너무 짧으면요.
그건 신중하게 다시 개요를 짜야죠. 어떤 문헌을 추가하고 어떻게 구조를 잡을지. 특히 2차 리뷰에서는 리뷰 패널의 기대를 더 잘 알기 때문에 이 부분이 더 중요해집니다.
문헌 연구 관련해서 팁이 있을까요?
3가지 팁을 제시하는데요. 첫째, 최신 문헌하고 고전 문헌을 선별적으로 잘 인용해서 업데이트해야 하고요.
네.
둘째, 관련 분야의 최신 동향에 대한 이해를 보여줘야 합니다. 그냥 나열하는 게 아니고요. 셋째, 리뷰어가 제안한 논문이 있다면 가급적 인용하고 만약 인용 안 한다면 그 이유를 답변서에 설명해야 해요. 리뷰어의 노력을 존중해야죠.
리뷰어 제안, 논문 인용. 이것도 중요하군요. 마지막 5번째는 좀 묘묘한 상황인데요. 리뷰어 교육하기, educating reviewers입니다. 간혹 해당 분야에 정통하지 않은 리뷰어를 만날 수도 있다고요?
네, 그럴 수 있죠. 먼저 리뷰어의 코멘트를 면밀히 조사해서 그분들의 관점을 이해하려고 노력해야 합니다. 섣불리 틀렸다고 생각하기 전에요.
그리고 나서요?
그리고 자문해봐야죠. 이 리뷰어랑 이 문제로 싸우는 게 정말 중요한가? 대부분의 경우 그렇지 않아요.
그럼 어떻게 하는 게 좋을까요?
추가 분석 요청은 가능하다면 그냥 수행하고 결과를 답변서에 포함시키는 게 제일 깔끔하고요. 만약 리뷰어가 문헌이나 주장을 오해했다면 현재 문헌의 상태와 자신의 관점이 최신 연구와 어떻게 일치하는지를 정중하게 설명해야 합니다.
정중하게요?
네. 과거에는 리뷰어님의 관점이 타당했을 수 있습니다만 이런 식으로 상대방을 존중하면서요. 절대로 공격적인 태도를 보여서는 안 됩니다.
만약 그래도 리뷰어가 너무 비합리적이라고 느껴지면요?
그럴 땐 전문가적 태도를 유지하면서 필요하다면 에디터에게 특정 리뷰어에 대한 대응 방안을 문의하는 게 현명해요. 이게 리뷰어가 좀 비합리적인 것 같다는 우려를 정중하게 표현하는 방법이 될 수 있죠.
절대 싸우면 안 된다는 거네요.
네. 리뷰어와의 싸움은 논문 게재 가능성을 없애는 지름길입니다.
자, 이렇게 힘든 원고 수정이 끝났다고 다가 아니죠. 이제 답변서, 리스폰스 더큐먼트를 작성해야 하는데 이게 가장 어려운 작업일 수도 있다고 합니다.
네, 맞아요. 답변서 작성 정말 중요하죠. 답변서 첫 한두 페이지에 아까 세웠던 수정 전략 있잖아요. 그걸 바탕으로 주요 수정 사항을 요약해서 제시하는 게 중요합니다.
아, 처음에 요약을 먼저 보여주는군요.
네, 이걸 통해 저자들이 리뷰어 코멘트를 정말 진지하게 받아들였고 모든 패널 멤버의 피드백을 반영해서 논문을 개선하려고 최선을 다했다는 걸 보여주는 거죠.
그럼 개별 코멘트에 대한 답변은 어떻게 해야 하나요? 사소하거나 관련 없어 보이는 코멘트까지 다 다뤄야 하나요?
네, 그렇습니다. 모든 코멘트에 대해서 신중하고 사려 깊은 답변을 제공해야 해요.
모든 코멘트요?
네, 관련이 없거나 연구 범위를 벗어난다고 생각되면 그렇게 설명하되 향후 연구 방향으로 포함할 의향이 있다 이런 식으로 밝힐 수 있고요.
리뷰어가 오해한 것 같다면요?
그럴 땐 먼저 저희 설명이 부족해서 혼란을 드린 점 죄송합니다 하고 사과를 하고 해당 내용을 더 자세히 설명하는 게 좋습니다.
만약 좀 적대적인 리뷰어를 만났다면요?
드물지만 그런 경우도 있죠. 그럴 땐 차분하게 대응하고 우려사항 해결에 대한 조언을 구하는 게 현명합니다. 감정적으로 맞설지 말고요.
다시 한번 강조되는 원칙. 리뷰어와 싸우지 말 것.
그렇죠.
하지만 의견이 다를 수는 있지 않나요? 무조건 다 수용해야 하는 건 아닐 텐데요.
물론입니다. 의견이 다를 수 있고 때로는 그렇게 해야만 할 때도 있어요. 단 정중해야 합니다.
어떻게 정중하게 의견 차이를 표현할 수 있을까요?
리뷰어가 왜 틀렸는지 지적하기보다는 내 주장이 왜 타당한지를 설명하는 데 집중해야 해요. 리뷰어 의견의 가치를 일단 인정하고 그로 인해 어떤 생각을 하게 되었는지 설명하면서요.
근거를 제시하는 게 중요하겠네요.
문헌. 다른 권위 있는 자료를 활용하는 게 좋아요. 약간 유명한 사람이 대신 반박하게 하라는 식의 접근이죠.
하하, 그것도 좋은 전략이네요. 만약 리뷰어의 요청을 정말 실행할 수 없다면 어떻게 해야 할까요? 예를 들어 추가 데이터 확보가 불가능하다거나 할 때요.
왜 할 수 없는지 솔직하게 설명해야 합니다. 예산이나 시간 부족, 연구 범위 이탈, 제한된 방법이 데이터셋에 부적합하다, 에디터가 다른 방식을 제안했다, 저널 페이지 제한 때문이다. 이런 이유들을 들 수 있겠죠.
그냥 못한다고만 하면 안 되겠군요.
네. 더 좋은 방법은 대안적인 해결책을 제시하는 거예요. 직접적인 해결에 불가능할 경우에요. 예를 들어 필드 실험 대신 랩 실험을 제안한다거나요.
아, 대안 제시.
그리고 고전적인 답변 방식이지만 여전히 유효한 게 있죠. 귀하의 지적사항을 연구의 한계점이나 향후 연구 방향으로 언급했습니다.
아, 네, 많이 쓰는 방식이죠.
이게 리뷰어가 원하는 최선의 답변은 아닐지라도 최소한 피드백을 소중히 여기고 진지하게 받아들였다는 인상을 줄 수 있습니다.
자, 이제 마지막 조언으로 넘어가 보겠습니다. 논문 수정과는 직접적인 관련은 없어 보이지만 어쩌면 가장 중요할 수도 있는 조언이라고 하는데요. 바로 스스로 적극적인 리뷰어가 되라는 겁니다.
네, be an active reviewer.
이게 왜 그렇게 중요할까요? 커뮤니티에 기여하는 것 외에 다른 이유가 있나요?
물론 학술 커뮤니티 기여라는 책임감도 있지만 가장 큰 이유는 리뷰 활동이 자신의 논문을 수정하는 기술을 향상시키기 때문이에요.
아, 리뷰를 하면서 배운다는 거군요.
그렇죠. 리뷰를 통해 리뷰 프로세스가 어떻게 작동하는지, 다른 사람들은 어떻게 리뷰하는지를 배우게 되거든요. 린도바가 리뷰 과정을 게임으로 볼 수도 있다고 했지만 그보다는 리뷰 패널 멤버들이 중요하게 생각하는 현재 이슈들을 배우는 학습 과정으로 보는 게 더 좋아요.
그럼 내 연구에서 뭘 미리 신경 써야 할지 알게 되겠네요.
맞습니다. 어떤 점을 미리 고려하고 해결해야 할지 알 수 있죠.
리뷰어로서 나중에 전체 리뷰 패키지를 받아볼 수 있다는 점도 언급되었죠? 다른 리뷰어 코멘트랑 저자 답변까지요.
네, 이게 정말 큰 공부가 됩니다. 내 리뷰랑 다른 리뷰어 코멘트, 그리고 에디터가 강조한 부분을 비교해 볼 수 있잖아요.
저자들이 어떻게 대응했는지도 볼 수 있고요.
네, 효과적으로 대응했는지 아니면 좀 미흡했는지 분석하면서 배우는 거죠. 이 과정을 반복하면 리뷰어의 심리를 이해하게 되고 행간의 의미를 잊고 또 효과적으로 소통하는 기술, 그러니까 설득력 있게 교육하고 정중하게 반론하는 기술이 크게 향상될 수 있습니다.
결국 오늘 살펴본 내용이 단순히 특정 논문 수정의 기술적인 측면을 넘어서는 이야기인 것 같습니다.
맞아요.
리뷰어를 적으로 보기보다는 협력자로 여기고 열린 마음으로 피드백을 수용하고 또 소통 기술을 연마하는 그런 태도에 관한 이야기 같아요.
네, 그래야만이 이 힘든 과정이 궁극적으로 더 보람찰 수 있겠죠. 저자들 팽앤 떼쳐도 강조하듯이 대부분의 논문은 리뷰어와 에디터의 건설적인 피드백 덕분에 초기 투고본보다 훨씬 더 발전하거든요.
어려움에도 불구하고 이 과정을 긍정적으로 받아들이는 것이 중요하겠네요.
그렇죠. 그게 더 나은 연구 결과와 최종 게재 시 더 큰 만족감으로 이어질 겁니다.
오늘 논의를 마무리하면서 청취자 여러분께 생각해볼 질문 하나를 던지고 싶습니다. 비단 학술 논문뿐만 아니라 여러분의 일이나 삶에서 마주하는 다른 복잡한 프로젝트나 학습 과정에서도요, 오늘 이야기 나눈 것처럼 비판적인 피드백을 받고 대응 전략을 세우고 건설적으로 소통하는 이 과정이 어떻게 적용될 수 있을까요? 한번 고민해 보시면 좋겠습니다. 오늘 저희와 함께한 깊이 있는 탐색은 여기까지입니다. 참여해 주셔서 감사합니다.